Hello there, small business rock stars. Are you guys ready for some the real secret to long-term success? We're kind of coming to the end here. It's time to stop surviving and start striving, right?
Yep.
We need to stop all of that. And today we're going to wrap up the fundamental formula with the final part of the pollinate section right here: commitment and growth. And excited to be here today, Kylene.
Yes, yes. Just 30 minutes a day of aligned, intentional action. We love to use that word intentional. It's really what separates your business of one that you kind of just tolerate and go with it, to one that you actually love and enjoy and love waking up to every day.
Absolutely. So if you've ever struggled with self-doubt, inconsistency, or felt overwhelmed, and I'm going to assume that's all of us because I know it is for Kylene and us, and really kind of felt overwhelmed by, and I'm going to borrow Becky's term here, all the things,
Mhm.
please take what we're sharing today to heart and see if you could implement anything that we inspire you guys with today.
Yep. Yep. But before we kick this off, I just want to introduce myself. I'm Kylene Montgomery, and that's my husband, Aaron Montgomery. And he is the author of The Fundamentals of Business Success. And together, we are the authors of The Gratitude Shift. I'm glad you have them handy.
Lewis actually brought one down for me. We
Oh,
got got an
perfect.
extra one there. So yeah, thank you for introducing us, Kylene. And for you guys that are regular listeners, I already see Craig and Chuck checking in already. So we'll get to you guys in just a second. But do us a favor if you haven't already, hit that like button. Also, go ahead and tag a business buddy right now and share this episode with someone who needs support on their path, or just somebody who's a business owner out there. Well, let's grow our community together. I'm excited to bring more people into the conversation, Kylene.
Yeah, yeah, me too. And then we're going to leave you with this question before we really dive in, but just start thinking about what's one small thing that you do that always makes your day feel more productive and positive.
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, shall we cue up that intro and get into it? Get a little dancing and moving going here.
Let's do it.
Dark days, overwhelmed, trapped in a maze. Small business owner, stress had me in a daze. Every problem piled up, couldn't catch a break. Thought I couldn't make it, my dreams were at stake. But then I found a group that changed my whole perspective. Our success group of a community so effective. We all chasing that dream, sharing struggles and fears. They understood my journey, wiped away my tears. Together we broke through, we rise above. No more feeling stuck, we're fueled by love. Our small business is shining, reaching new heights with the support of our success group. We're taking flight with our word strong, the vision so clear, building our dreams with no more fear. Together we're resilient, unstoppable force with our success group.
Let's talk some business.
All right. Well, let's talk some business here. And Kylene, that was a great question. What's one small thing that you always, or sorry, it was such a great question. I forgot it. But what's one small thing you do that always makes your day feel more productive and positive? Huh. Interesting. Right. And I guess the reason I love that question is a lot of times we're always looking for the problems. We're looking for the things that don't work. But what about the things that do work? How can we amplify those things? And so, yeah, I'm curious to hear from you guys in the chat or people that are tuned in live right now. We've got Craig checking in. He says, just finished a 5-hour walk out to the tip of Cape Cod. Oh, beautiful.
Wow, that sounds
Amazing.
amazing.
Yeah, glad you get that time away. I know you've been working hard at the day job too. And so good afternoon, Chuck. Thank you so much for being here with us. And yeah, excited to hear from you guys. Yeah, what's one small thing that you do that seems to always make your day feel more productive and positive? Kylene, anything show up for you?
For me, it's doing yoga and planning my day in the morning. When I have that intentional plan in front of me and I have the tasks and then I get my mind right with yoga, then I always feel like I am moving in the right direction instead of life just happening
I
to
love that.
me.
That's great. That's great. So, kind of playing off that theme then, right? What are some ways that you can amplify that or make that more intentional or make that more regular or whatever, right? And I'm not asking you, maybe you can share if you'd like, but that's the whole concept here, right? Like, let's look at those things and how can we amplify that. So,
Yep.
sound, Kevin.
Yep. I mean, really just blocking off 30 minutes for yourself. It's not a lot, it sounds kind of like a lot, but when you're thinking about what you'll get back in return, it's just blocking off that 30 minutes, set a timer, and
Yep.
just do that one thing.
Yep. Cool. All right. Well, let's get into it a little bit here before we get too far away from it. I was just curious about your amplifying of what you were talking about and what your thoughts were on that. But
waking up at the same time every day would really be beneficial.
Ooh, waking up at the same time every day. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For me, it's actually slowing down, like not trying to take on too much, learning to say no more quickly and with more grace in that. And, I have this tendency to just in passing, but then that that makes it really tough where it's a very deep core value of mine is doing what we say we're going to do. But yet if I say something in passing that I don't even think through, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll do that. I'll get back to you on that. Like, oh, wait a second. Why? Right. And so for me, it is really slowing down, just really slowing things down. So, yeah. So, Kylene, as we're kind of getting into today's Small Business Saturdays, for those that are regular listeners, they know we always have 3 pillars. We have fundamentals, we have mindset, we have wellness. Normally it's actually mindset, fundamentals, and then wellness is kind of the typical order, but not always. And today is one of those days where it's not always the typical order. And I want to dive right into the fundamentals section, just this practical stuff first, and then we'll come back and tune the mindset and figure out the wellness aspect of this. So does that sound like a good plan for today?
Yeah, it sounds like a great plan. Lots of good stuff.
Yeah. And as you were alluding to there, this entire idea is about committing only 30 minutes a day. In fact, based on how much I talk, this show will probably be longer than the time we're asking you to commit, right? 30 minutes of commitment to daily action of things that make you feel more productive or positive. Is that not like, yes, sign me up, right? I'm hoping that's what people's going through people's minds right now, Kylene. But yeah, how do we do that?
Yeah, 100%. I agree. I mean, really, it's setting a timer and just keeping that commitment to yourself and just do the one thing that you have identified that's going to really help you set your day up with intention and lots of success, and commit to that time block every day, not just 2 days a week, every day. And then it becomes that habit. So, if you have appointments or commitments that day, just like we said earlier, get up 30 minutes earlier. Make sure you make the time for it.
Yeah. Or, you could stay up 30 minutes later and then but you got to adjust, right? So make that commitment. And I think what you said at the start there is do one thing. Like this is not about doing everything. This is what's one thing that you can do each day, right? Kylene, you said, yoga was the thing for you, right? Because you listed off several things, but what's the one thing that you're going to commit to that you can do for 30 minutes, right? And like I said, for me, it's slowing down. But what that looks like in practice, in a practical way, is I need 30 minutes of quiet time, meditation, prayer, really that kind of space to let all the noise subside and just go, okay, what's right? What feels right here? And time and prayer for me is very valuable in that. So.
And I have to say, like, just knowing you and what I've seen, you really put yourself into and having that dedication to that time for yourself. The days that I guess it's not very often that you're not doing that anymore. But
I go through ebbs and flows just like everybody. So
yeah. But I mean, when you're on it, like you respond better to life. Like you can just tell that you've taken the time to take care of yourself.
So you need to be like, hey, go do your 30 minutes.
You need some alone time.
You're being a pain in my butt. You're in timeout for 30 minutes.
Yeah. But the same thing with me with yoga and that intentional quiet time and movement, when you just start to feel overwhelmed when you don't make that commitment.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, for those of you that know me, you know that I love a good acronym. So we've got SVPs, which is strengths, values, and passions,
Mhm.
the OSGs, which stands for our success group, but also outcomes, structure, and growth. And, and when it comes to our habits, these intentional things, these marginal gains that we're trying to build for ourselves, I like to use the acronym of PATH. And this is kind of the way that you can look at this 30-minute action and say, okay, is this the right thing for me to be a worthwhile commitment of my 30 minutes a day? So is it a purposeful action that aligns with your goals? Right. So it, for me, like I said, slowing down, right, that aligns with my goals because it helps me have more clarity and move throughout. Like, it's really easy for me to like take on everything, and that's been, when I get out of balance with that, that's not good. So it's very, very purposeful. So it, I love using the word purposeful, and I think sometimes maybe I overuse it at a certain point, but I'll always say, like, when we're kind of maybe running late, we're trying to get out of the house, right? I'll say to Lewis, okay, move with purpose. Right. I'm not
Yeah.
asking you to go crazy and freak out and go, oh my gosh, we got to go fast. Right. Because then we actually are slower. Right. But when we move with purpose, it's efficient. There's no wasted movement. We know what we're trying to do. We're trying to get from point A to point B, and we're not going to stop and smell the roses in this particular instance. Right. So what does purposeful action mean to you, Kylene?
I mean, that's just, another word is intentional.
Yeah.
Like you are focused on what it is that you are wanting to accomplish in that moment.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that's what it means.
Okay, perfect. So that's the P.
Yep.
The next way to evaluate this is with the A of PATH, which is it action oriented, right? And the reason I add this is a lot of times we'll think that, okay, this is very purposeful, and that's great. But ultimately, we've got to get into action, right? So if we look at the fundamental formula, right, we've got our pollinate, which is the mindfulness. We've got our prepare, which is the planning, and I'm sorry, I went the wrong way. The plant, which is the mindfulness, the prepare, which is the planning, and then the pollinate, which is the action. And this is action, and so it needs to be action oriented, right? You guys know that I think it's really important to have that clarity, have that planning, have that thinking, that opportunity to slow down, right? But it does need to be action oriented. And so I think somebody might be going, wait a second, Aaron, you said your purposeful action was to slow down and to meditate and to think, right? And here's the deal. It is action oriented for me because what it does is it allows me to figure out what to say no to, what's
Mhm.
right to listen, so that my action is action oriented, right? There is movement that is right for me, right? So
Mhm.
I guess in a way I'm cheating a little bit because I know myself. I know that Kylene can attest to this. The action is not my challenge. I,
No.
I, I don't have that. So if you're like me, where you're doing everything all the time and you're a workaholic and yada, 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 what's actionable for me is actually slowing down. Right now,
Mhm.
you're not identical to me and you operate a little bit differently. So what
Mhm.
action oriented mean to you?
That's just doing the next step. It truly is being clear about what I am doing and moving with that purpose in action.
Yeah.
Um, for me, I go in roller coaster movement sometimes. It build up all that momentum, right? I
Yep.
achieve it and then I go back down and then I have to do that all over again. So staying in that action mindset will be really powerful.
Yep.
Forward.
Okay. Awesome. So that's the A. Then
Yep.
T stands for tenacity.
Mhm.
Am I filled with tenacity to take the action? Will you show up on the hard days, especially when no one's watching, right? Oh, well, nobody knows if I'm doing yoga. Nobody knows if I'm gonna,
Mhm.
take my prayer time, right? That or whatever. Like,
Yep.
when nobody's watching, it needs to be an action that is so tenacious that you don't care, right?
Yep.
If it's hard, I'm still showing up. If it's no one's watching, I'm still showing up, right? So,
Mhm.
what does that mean to you, Kylene?
I mean, it really is meaning that you are seeing the benefits of what you're doing. So it doesn't matter who's seeing you do it. You're doing it for yourself, and it's so important that you're doing it no matter what.
And yeah, and that drives that tenacity
Yeah.
to do it
Yep.
even in the hard times. I love that. Okay,
Mhm.
and then the H of this acronym is a habit. Can it become a habit? It's something that you wind up doing without thinking too much about it. It builds that. It kind of builds into something that just feels a natural extension of who you are.
Mhm.
Right. So an example for us business owners out there is maybe your habit is just, you know, you block out 30 minutes to call one good customer a day and just
Yep.
give them a call. And every day. And you give yourself that 30 minutes so it's not rushed. It's an actual relationship building. It you could do a little research, search the web and see if there's any news about them that you can, use as a way to reach out or whatnot, right? But that can become a habit. And one of the reasons that that can become a habit is that you've committed to doing that every day, right?
Yep.
All the days that end in Y, I'm going to do that. Right? We're again taking that thinking about it is decision is today the day I'm going to do this. When we take that out of it, then that becomes the type of marginal gain action that we're looking for. So,
Mhm. Yeah.
Kylene, what's that habit part mean to you?
Ooh, the habit is you're just doing it without thinking. Like if you don't do it, something feels off, right? You've created that routine for yourself, and it just keeps you in alignment as you keep moving forward.
Yeah, yeah, cool. And then before you get to the next section here, Kylene, I do
Yeah.
want to make this really clear. I think I jumped into this with such excitement that I kind of missed the big picture part, right? We didn't do the mindset first.
Sure.
The
Yeah.
whole concept here is that 30 minutes, right? And that 30 minutes is what we would call a marginal gain. And we call it marginal gains because not that they're small or insignificant, like marginal like that, but marginal as in this is not I have to do these huge projects all of the time. This
Mhm.
is a daily habit that is going to provide gains for you. And what we're saying is start off by blocking 30 minutes. You might find that when you make it a habit of calling a good customer every day, that becomes just like, boom, okay, 5 minutes. And then I do something else for the rest of the 25 minutes that I have blocked
Mhm.
out for my marginal gain activity. So it doesn't need to be just one. But the suggestion is if you haven't set up something like this for yourself, don't try to do all the things, right? When that's what we talked about earlier, where it's just doing one thing, it means let's get really good at one thing first, and then you can start habit stacking. You start building on top of that, and you've got this 30-minute power hour that is really moving the needle for you without even having to really kind of push real hard or come up with extra motivation because it's just become habitual, right? And I know for a lot of people that 30-minute kind of power half hour will turn into 60 minutes or like just kind of drive your day. And so that's the whole idea here. And the reason that we brought in the path thing is how do we kind of determine if this action is worth putting that effort into building a habit out of it, right?
Yeah.
So what can we help people with next year, Kylene?
So let's help people like kind of if they're struggling with what marginal gain to focus on.
Yeah.
If you're unsure what to do, here are some activities that might be right for you. Using your SVPs, your strengths, values, and passions, and then find a fundamental to work on that you feel like needs the most work. And so we have some examples for you guys to kind of
Yeah.
break this down. But go
And
ahead, Aaron.
yeah, before you get into the examples, we wanted to give you some examples, and I'll let Kylene bring these to you so they're
Mhm.
quick and to the point here. But I do want you guys to just understand that we're basically going 1 through 13 in the fundamentals. There's 13
Yep.
fundamentals in the fundamentals of business success. So if you're somebody that's new to this stuff and you're not familiar, you can just grab the book here, or you can go to osg.link/FBS and again, 1 to 13. These are the 13 cyclical things that we can do in our business. And Kylene's going to share just small things that you could do every day to build that. So pick one of these to start. Where based on your SVPs, your strengths, values, and passions, where could you use the most gain here in your business? So Sorry, I wanted to just get clarity on that.
No, I appreciate that.
You dove
Yeah,
in.
yeah. So it's all based from that book, and then I'm just going to share some examples and then see what resonates with you, and maybe you have a light bulb moment, and that's maybe a place to kind of start from.
Yeah.
Do you want me to start going through them?
Let's do it. Yeah, you
Okay.
just run down through the list.
Okay. So, right, if I were to take 5% more responsibility for something, I would blank. So, this would be fundamental number 1, empower yourself. So, we're not saying change everything, just 5% more responsibility, maybe waking up 5 minutes earlier, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So
I
get
love
going.
that. Perfect. Yep.
So fundamental number 2 is clarify your reason. So this one, you could share your reason with others. Tell people what your reason is. Tell
Yeah.
them your why.
Yeah.
Um,
Kylene, what's your reason? Do you have it
yep,
handy?
I do. Yep, to encourage positive transformation with mind and body healing.
Okay. And mine
Yep.
is to cultivate an uncommon mindset in business owners by equipping them with fundamentals, which we're doing right now, to
Yep.
build fulfilling, goal achieving businesses.
Love it. Yep. There we go. We worked on number 2. Look at that.
There we go. Just like that. All right.
Yeah.
Number 3.
Okay, number 3, reignite your self-trust. So reflect on a recent success, no matter how small, and write about it and how it demonstrates your capabilities and your strengths, and celebrate it. Build that confidence inside of you. Fundamental number 4, be a goal getter. So begin implementing the next step towards your number 1 goal. Fundamental number 5, the relationships. So develop a job description for your own role in your company. Get that clarity there. Number 6, marketing groundwork. Single statements of what you do or the problem that you solve for your customers.
Yeah. And Kylene, we actually, sorry, just wanted to, crazy enough, right? We had a pricing workshop this last week, and just a little bonus for everybody here. One of the things we talked about in pricing was that right there. So if you think that it's not important to understand what problem you solve, it is highly important if you want to be able to profitably price your products. So anyhow, sorry.
Yeah. No, it's a really good point. I mean, you need to know why you're doing what you're doing, right?
Yep.
So it's really important. Number 7, numbers game. So review your monthly expenses versus actual expenses. So just really look at your numbers and understand where it's going or where it's coming in from, and understand that.
Yep.
Number 8, systematic process. So that's documenting a work in your business process, not just on your business. So not doing the busy work, but doing the foundational steps and operations.
Sure. Could you give people an example of a working in your business process?
Yeah, so that could be, working on maybe your marketing groundwork again.
Well,
maybe.
Okay, that's working on. What's a working in?
Oh, I think I just reversed them then.
Yeah.
Working in is like doing, making the products. Maybe it's shipping, it's doing customer service, things like that.
Yeah, exactly. And so when you document that, right, that allows you to see what the process is, where you could get more efficient, where you could do better by your customers, whatever. And so that systematic process, developing that systematic process, if you just did that 30 minutes a day, just think of the progress that you'd make. So anyhow, all right, go ahead.
Thank you. Sorry, I got that reversed.
You're fine.
Glad you caught it. Conquer fear, number 9. So take that first step of a project outside your comfort zone, right? Take that little first step, survive that risk, learn from it, and keep going. Number 10, productive action. So a thing you could do, you could just journal honestly about what's holding you back from being in action. Taking that time, like Aaron said, sometimes slow down to speed up. That could be that moment. Number 11, the success team. So complete a 5 people assessment list from last week's Small Business Saturdays.
Yep.
And really make sure those people that you're surrounding yourself with are the ones that are going to help reach your goal. and
Yep.
support you.
Yep. Perfect.
Number 12, crave feedback. Review all your customer reviews for opportunities for improvement. That's really important. And then number 13, marginal gains. So identify small improvements to your daily routine and implement it immediately. That's really important.
Yeah. And that's what we're doing here, right? Is we are
Yeah.
looking at ways that we can, change our routine and implement those changes. And so, like, if you're not sure what to do, right? A lot of people are like, I just don't know what to do next. Okay. Well, what's an area of your business that you feel like you're not as strong foundationally, right? Thinking about the 13 fundamentals, which area, and there is no wrong answer. Here's the great part. You can work on one area, and then once you feel more comfortable with it, work on the next area. And you don't have to go in order either, right? Like, yes, these are cyclical, and we are not supposed to, we can really kind of operate in this, mindset, plan, and take action phase, but you're going to be in different stages of your business at different times, right? And so it's okay to go out of order or to say, man, I'm just really struggling with taking action right now. Okay, well, then let me go to those final action marginal gains, conquer fear, productive action, success team, crave feedback, marginal gains. And from that list there, and what can I do? Okay, 5 people assessment, right? Maybe I just don't have the right people around me. Or maybe I've forgotten about my customer reviews. Man, nobody loves what I do. Oh, well, then what are these, 25-star reviews that talk about how amazing you are? Telling you that kind of thing. So practically that's how we get into this right now. Let's dive into the mindset part. Again, we kind of switched up the pillars a little bit here because I want people to have that practical idea in their head. And then how do we how do we set our mindset so this becomes very, very useful?
Yeah.
So where do we start with that on the mindset side, Kylene?
Well, I mean, we just think about what you can do in a day, and most people overestimate what you can get done in a day. I know I have a huge list for my day job that I think I can accomplish every day.
Yeah. And so from that, right, when we overestimate what we can do in a day, then we make these big, huge, long lists, and then we actually do less because we're so overwhelmed. Right? And so what's the journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step. So can I break that down into more bite-sized pieces and say, here's my fundamental 5, right? And I'm not going to worry about the other things. Everything else is going to be gravy, but these are the 5 most important things for me to accomplish today. So Kylene, even in your day job, right? If you can take that same mindset and go, okay, yes, I have this huge list, but what is the most important thing to me based on my strengths, values, and passions? Yeah. So again, those of you that do also have the day jobs, think about it this way. Like, somebody might be putting their urgencies on you, but to be successful and thriving in your day job, you need to continue to lean into your strengths, values, and passions. And so what are the 5 most important things on your list for you that day? And then after that, then you can get into other people's urgencies.
Yeah. I really like how you just put that.
Yeah.
It's really powerful. Yeah.
Good. And hello, Barb. Thanks for jumping in and joining us. And Craig, I didn't want to miss your comment from earlier. I switched from listening to radio on my commute to podcasts and books on tape. I love it. That's great.
Yeah, good job.
Okay, so you said that most people overestimate what they can do in a day, and that's 100% true. Also, most people underestimate what they can build in a year. Right? How many times have you gone, oh, wow, I can't believe I accomplished that. And I thought that was going to take me forever. And it only took me 6 months, right? Like writing a 100,000 word book in 6 months. Never thought that was possible, but I did it. Right. I think, because of the way that the world operates, the way that we look at things, these 2 blind spots can be very damaging in our thriving and productivity. Is that first we in the moment we layer so much stuff on that we are overwhelmed and we're just completely out of sync. But then in the bigger picture, we don't believe enough in ourselves to realize that we can accomplish a lot more than we think. Right. And so I think the mindset part here that is crucial for me to share with people, and I can't wait to get your thoughts on this, Kylene, is this whole concept of going all in and then burning out. Okay, today's the day. I'm going to do it all.
Yeah.
And we do that for a few days and then we burned out.
Yeah.
And so the whole point of this growth and commitment to growth really is what it is about always being in with a consistent rhythm that's sustainable.
Yeah.
And so 30 minutes a day, sustainable, right? Trying to do that for 10 hours a day, not sustainable, right? Even a workaholic like me, it's not sustainable. And so the rhythm and the balance builds belief, clarity, and really a fulfillment that lasts. So I know that that's kind of a broad idea here, right? And maybe a little bit nuanced. I think a lot of times what the truths are out there in the world are hidden in nuance, but this idea of all in versus always in, I think builds that rhythm. So what's your thoughts on that, Kylene, before you get into the next point?
Yeah, I mean, when I hear you talking about that, I kind of think, when people go all in like that, and they burn out, well, then when they think about setting their goals and their life for the future, we tend to say small, right? Because we don't dream as big because we don't believe it's possible, right? Because we burned ourselves out trying to do it before, right? And so our body is trying to protect us, and therefore we don't dream as big as we could, and what we're meant to be to share our gifts. So I feel like always in is having that rhythm of what works for you, and that's where that 30 minutes is so powerful, because that is sustainable, like you said.
Yeah. And think of it like riding a bike, right? That very first pedal, that very first turn of the pedal, when you don't have any momentum, is the most difficult pedal of the entire ride, right? But if you are riding that bike and then you get that first pedal going and you just are casually moving along and making progress along the way, then you're going to be good. But if you make that first pedal and then you just keep pedaling as hard as you can only sustain that for so long, and then you've got to stop, and then you've got to get that first pedal going again. But this is the tortoise versus the hare kind of idea, right? And so I think it's really important to be committed to being always in, right? Okay, today might not be the best day. Maybe some things have happened. I've got some issues going on in my life or my world or my health or my this or that, but I'm committed to my own personal growth. I know I'm 100% responsible for my own success. And so I'm going to do the action today. Yep. I know it's a Saturday. Yep. I know it's a Sunday, but I'm going to do one action today that's going to continue that momentum forward. So
and build that self-trust with yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, all right. Well, how do we kind of keep looking at this then, Kylene?
Yeah. So when you look at that 30 minutes every day, you're 100% committed, and that's so much easier than the 99% committed, because then that decision's not there. You're not debating it. That 1%, you're wasting that energy saying, is today the day? Is today not the day? I just do it. And that's where you're at. But 30 minutes is achievable. So it's not like your example earlier, 10 hours a day. That's not really realistic. So
I'll keep trying, but
you do try. I give you that. And what we're saying is, it's not like every day is going to feel magical and, oh my gosh, this was amazing, but you're aligning yourself with your habits and your strengths, your values, and your passions. You feel that fulfillment and accomplishment, and that's going to give you that positive energy moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes that 30 minutes, right, is just going to give you more energy. It's just going to build from it. And when you are operating out of your strengths, values, and passions, like I was talking about, going back to those of you with the day job, right? If you're trying to tackle everything else that doesn't align with your strengths, values, and passions first, you're never going to get there. But when you focus on those things first, and then the rest of it is like, okay, fine. Not fine, like in a negative, but like, okay, great. Now I'm inspired. Now I can do the hard things, or the things that don't really truly deeply align with me, but they're part of my responsibility. Right.
Yep.
And so the same thing happens in our business. A lot of times, people operate different ways, and there's a whole list of ways that you can kind of be more productive or have better time management and stuff like
Mhm.
that. But for some people, like, there's this concept of eat the frog. Kylene, have you heard of that? Right?
Yep.
Where you do the hardest thing first. But typically the hardest thing is the thing that's out of alignment with who you are. Right. And so, okay, I can see how that might work for some people. But for example, that doesn't work for me. I just basically give away all of my energy and I do nothing the rest of the day if I've tried to eat that frog first. I need to build that momentum, that kind of
Mhm.
belief up in myself. And so I will, quote unquote, eat the frog later after I've already had all the momentum and I'm feeling good and all that stuff. Right. So, but that doesn't mean that that solution isn't right for somebody else. Other people, they probably do need to do the hardest thing first and kind of get it out of the way so they're not dreading it all day.
Yep.
Right. And so I think that's really what it's about, is that alignment and figuring out what way is going to help you with the most growth. And so the whole idea of this part of the fundamental formula is we're making a commitment to our growth. So it's commitment plus growth. Right. And so, because the reality is your inner critic is still going to be
Yep.
probably pretty loud, right? Like there's some, there's this voice going on. I know it. I have that same voice that you guys do. Kylene, I know you've got that voice
Yeah.
too. And so really what we've got to do is we've got to give that inner critic that, itty bitty, what committee, um, because at the end of the day, that inner voice wants what's best for you. It just doesn't understand. Right. So if we give it something better to focus on, it goes from an inner critic to an inner coach. Right. So start asking yourself questions about, like, what lights me up? What gives me energy? What's one thing I get to do today? Right. That
Yeah.
question you answered before we dove into this, it is so crucial to all this. Right. What's one small thing that always makes your day feel more productive or positive? And then focus on that. Right. So,
Mhm.
just those three questions one more time for people, Kylene, and then you
Yep.
can help close out this pillar.
Oh yeah.
What lights me up? What gives me energy? What's one thing I get to do today?
Yeah. I love that last one.
Yeah.
Get to do. And that's, kind of that language shift here that we're having. So you get to versus have to. And that's really, just saying it, it does make a huge difference in how we show up. When we have to do something, we start dreading it and we have that negative feeling, and it's like, oh, I don't want to do it. What we get to, we have the privilege of doing it. We're grateful that we have the opportunity to do this task or action, whatever it might be. So really, I'm trying to be more intentional of catching myself when I say I have to do certain things and
Mhm.
changing it. And it just makes, I don't know, I approach it differently. My energy is different when I get to do something. Because not everyone to put it in perspective, not everyone has the opportunity to do what you get to do. So it
Yeah.
just, it brings that appreciation to it as
Yeah,
well.
I love that. I love that. And here's the part that I don't know, I just am always blown away by. Like you said, you bring a different energy to it, even though it's really, if you were to kind of break it down, it's the same task, right? So,
Yeah.
example of this might be, I have to post on social media, right? Versus I get to engage with people that I've
Yeah.
never even met before, right? And so you're still doing the same thing, but
Mhm.
how is your action going to be from the I get to engage with people that I've never even met face to face before? Wow,
Mhm.
that's pretty cool. So this social media thing isn't so bad, right? Yeah, I don't have to love it, right? Like, everybody always asks me, that I had somebody tell me the other day, I can't believe how much, content you put out and how engaging you are on social media. And I said, well, I'll be honest with you, I really don't like Facebook. I think it's a has a lot of negativity to it, but I have been very intentional about understanding that and getting rid of that. So, I know there's a lot of things going on in the world right now, and both sides of the quote unquote aisle here in the United States have
Mhm.
very strong opinions of things right now. Um, and regardless of where I land, whether I agree with what they're saying or not, if you're going to Facebook to have these political discussions, that's not what's in it for me, right? Like, I want a rising tide that lifts all boats. And that's what I think social media is. Now, if you want to have those discussions, I'm totally on board to have those discussions because I think they're necessary. I just personally, this is only my opinion, I just personally don't think that using Facebook as that tool is the right thing. But if it is the right thing for you, keep doing it. I just snooze people for 30 days and then, come back. Right. So that's an example of it, right? It is just how we can just reframe those things. And from that mindset, for me, every day, it's not a big deal for me to jump into social media and have a conversation, right? I've also found that being active in our group is where I find the most love and value and whatnot. And so outside of our group, I don't get too terribly crazy. I definitely post and I want to, again, bring my reason to the world to cultivate uncommon mindsets and that type of thing. But getting very intentional about it all came from that mindset shift of, oh, I have to post on social media every day. And it was a slog versus I get to engage with people that maybe I've never even met before. How cool is that? So anyhow.
No, it is really cool. And that is a perfect example of the power of that language shift. And then, when you're thinking of your 30 minutes a day thing that you are doing, you get to do that. You give yourself that gift to do that, to keep moving forward.
Yep, for sure. All right. So that's kind of that mindset shift that goes along with it, right? We have the practical application of it, but really understanding, what lights me up, what gives me energy, what's one thing I get to do today, making those things. And I think that part where you talked about that 100% commitment is so crucial to this as well. And then, right, the wellness aspect of this, from what's the benefit in a lot of ways, is this idea that, well, let me share a truth with you guys, right? I overlook this a lot when building a new habit, and the fact that it needs to be sustainable, right?
Yeah.
And so that's where I have had less success in the past, when I forgot to understand that our habits need to be sustainable. This kind of idea of progress over perfection, right? Like my big joke is when we talk about going to the gym. Oh yeah, I drive by one regularly. That type of thing. Because for me in the past, I've gone, okay, I'm committed to working out. I'm going to get in better shape. I'm going to lose some weight. I've got to do a 60-minute high intensity workout. And then the next day I'm sore and I'm just kind of not really figuring out like, not today's not the day. Right. And so it doesn't become sustainable, right? Anything where we overdo that kind of front end of it. And this is not to say that you're not going to maybe overdo things and then have to figure out how to adjust, right? So if you go from couch to 5K, right? The program, so Kylene's used this program called Couch to 5K, and the program isn't couch to go run 10 miles.
No.
The program is couch to, let's go take a walk. Let's go to, do the small things. So talk to us a little bit about that, Kylene.
Well, I just wanted to say, I'm surprised you didn't talk about your fear of moderation. Because this is, I said it.
Show, Kylene, no cursing.
Montgomery men do not know what that word means, is moderation. So then you guys really understand how much work Aaron is doing right here, because he is an all-in kind of person. But then it's not sustainable. So for me personally, my lowest two strengths is self-regulation and perseverance. So for me, when I want to start building new healthy, productive habits, it's really tough because I'm out of alignment. I feel like I don't have that control because I'm forcing these strict routines, and I just rely on willpower alone, and it doesn't last. So it might lead to that resentment and burnout and avoidance and all that other fun stuff that comes with that. So a way we can kind of look at this is just start with excitement. I struggle, but I'm maintaining consistency, or, I beat myself up for not sticking with routines. That's that negative mindset. And I feel like a failure if I miss a day, then I stop altogether. I don't know if anyone else does that, but that's kind of what happens to me when I'm trying to start something new. And then I have that failure feeling inside of me.
Yeah. But so before I know you're going to keep going with this, but I just wanted to point something out for everybody here, that Kylene is being open and honest and transparent with us here, about ways where, if she was to try to set a habit, this would be, but this is nothing to do with Kylene and like, oh my gosh, she's not good. She doesn't have self-regulation and perseverance. My goodness. It's not a bad thing. It's just naturally who she is.
Mhm.
And the fact of the matter is her strengths are strengths that I'm like envious of. Right. And so what she's sharing here is like, if she tries to set up herself for success like everybody else does, if she goes and follows some person, that guru out there that's yelling at her to 10x the things, and gets her all excited and pumped up, but then she has a hard time maintaining consistency, right? And then the next phase for her is she beats herself up for not sticking with the routine, and then she feels like a failure when she misses a day, and then that's like, but that has no indication as to who Kylene is as a person. That's just natural for her. And so when she does this, right? So what's a sustainable habit look like for you potentially?
Yep. Yep. And I appreciate you pointing out the honesty part of that one. For me, sustainable habit, it utilizes systems. So reminders, accountability partners, rewards. I have had a calendar in my closet when I'm getting ready in the morning. I can put stars on there, the days that I've done my movement, those kinds of things I can put in place simply. It doesn't have to be like super complicated. And that helps me stay committed. And then I have I can build my flexible routines, and that 30-minute block is achievable. But I can shift that 30 minutes throughout the day, depending on what's going on, but I'm still getting it done. So those are the things that have worked for me. So maybe it would work for you guys too.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think it's really crucial that, you're looking at and understanding that you've got to set up those external systems. You have to be intentional about that, right? If you're relying on your internal willpower, it's just not going to happen for you. But again, it makes no indication as to what kind of person you are, whatever label is that we're trying to put on ourselves there.
Yep.
It's just the truth of who you are, truth of how you were made. And so if we can be intentional about, okay, why are my strengths, values, and passions so important for me to understand as deeply as I can? Well, because now, for you need to set up external systems, reminders, rewards, accountability partners, that type of thing, right? Chuck here says, I'm with you, Kylene. If I miss a day, everything seems to snowball and I think I can't do it, right? Because you guys are trying to rely on, my guess is, just knowing Chuck a little bit as I know him, he probably has a lot of the same tendencies and strengths that you do, right? Because you might look at Kylene and I sometimes as maybe opposites. I don't know, the opposites attract thing, if that's true or not. But so as different as Kylene and I are, I actually have those same two self-regulations and perseverance in my bottom 5. Now, they're not as deep in my bottom 5 as they are for Kylene, but the way I experience that is still actually very different. For me, trying to build new, healthy, and productive habits can also be very tricky, right? Not because I don't want to improve, but because I can easily overcomplicate things. Shocking, right? 48 minutes in. Nobody's shocked here. I can easily lose momentum when it gets repetitive or routine. I like the front end of it. I like the building of it, but the routine, the repetitiveness of it, I lose interest very quickly. Kylene, you and I talked about this when we're doing production, right? Like for me to do 100 things over and over again, I can't do it. I have to okay, let's do 5, 10. Okay, next thing, and then come back, do 5, right? For you, you can sit there the whole, and just get it all done, right? So when I'm out of alignment with my own strengths, values, and passions, I notice that I will start new habits with a ton of fire, but I fizzle out once the novelty of it wears off for me. I get distracted very easily by all the other great ideas or urgent things, right? I'm very easy for me to go, okay, great.
Yeah.
Let's do something else. I do lean on my ability to lead others, but I don't always extend that same structure to myself, right? We've got a whole fundamental formula here, and I'll be honest, I don't always come back to that for me. I'm so focused on helping others set that up that I sometimes forget, right? And I also don't naturally build deep emotional connections. So with all those challenges, right, what works better for me is I thrive with those same external structures like Kylene talked about, but I need more clarity in that, right? That's where, for me, we talked about earlier, slowing down. So I like to use tools like checklists, timers, and that public declaration, right? I know for me, a deep core value is doing what I say I'm going to do.
Mhm.
So when I make that public declaration, that puts a lot of weight on me. And so it needs to be something that's visible and trackable, right? So I always go back to the book, but it's such a tangible example of like, I
Mhm.
said I'm going to do this book, and I don't think I could have done it without knowing that you guys knew about it, and we were talking about it regularly, and people would ask me, how's the book, and blah blah blah. And so all these things were really important for me. So I've learned that I've got to build my habits around leaderships kind of ideas, right? So in
Mhm.
commitments, when you'll notice that I'm the first one to say, well, I'm here. Here we go. If anybody wants to do this, jump on a call. I'm going to host a call. I'm going to try to set the tone for others, and that typically brings me along and keeps me engaged. So
Mhm. Yeah.
even though we've got some similar things in our low strengths, the fact of the matter is our high strengths are what really drives how we best set up our own growth and habits.
Yeah. I love that you shared that too. I mean, it just truly shows how important it is to know where your strengths, values, and passions are, because it does intertwine so much with everything that you're trying to do in your life. And so, like Aaron and I have some similarities of things that, we have challenges on, but because we truly understand who we are as people with those strengths, we can figure out what works for us. And so for you, it's really important that you take the time to figure out, what your strengths are and what works for you and what doesn't. And if it looks different for you than it does for Aaron or I, that's okay. That's the cool part, is we get to put the systems in place that work for us.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. So, you can use it as inspiration, maybe something to try, but don't force it if it doesn't feel right. You don't need to copy that perfect morning routine from Instagram. People want to share what's working for them, but that doesn't mean it has to
Well,
completely mimic it. It's inspiration.
yeah. Yeah. And that's the real key, right? Like, don't think that somebody's sharing their perfect morning routine is a negative thing. Well, you're setting me up for failure. No,
Yeah.
if you take that as, I have to do it that way, otherwise it's not going to work because they're so successful, I have to copy and compare myself to them, then that's why it's not going to work, right? But if you're inspired by it and go, oh wow, okay, they've got that routine, cool, what parts of that could I use, but what parts of that aren't going to work for me? And now
Mhm.
you have been inspired by it, and honestly, I think then our next responsibility is to go out and inspire others, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, just building things that feel right for you. But go ahead and wrap that up, Kylene. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, you want to create something that's going to build your own rhythm and, really create that energy for you in your life. And your version of a thriving routine is one that feels supportive. You shouldn't feel like any shame or punishment or anything. It just really needs to be unique to you. And we're all here to support you too. So if you need your success team, we're
Yeah.
here.
There you go. There you go. And I think that last part of that you shared, right? It needs to be supportive. If it feels like a punishment, then it's time to go back to the
Yeah.
drawing board. Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
All right. So let's just wrap this up with, I just want to give people some practical steps that they can take this week to put
Yeah.
this into action for themselves. So number one thing, Kylene, is we need to find a 30-minute block that we can have each day. Schedule it daily, make it non-negotiable, right? Like, this is the most important appointment on your calendar. Now, non-negotiable in that it is 30 minutes a day. If the time needs to be adjusted, we talked about that, right? So somebody that's like yourself, Kylene, having that rigid everyday thing, or Chuck, and then you miss it at that time, and then you kind of beat yourself up over it. It feels like punishment, and it snowballs, in Chuck's words. Then you think you can't do it. Then that's okay to say, no,
Mhm.
you know what? This morning didn't have the time, but I am 100% committed to it that sometime during my day, I will get to that 30-minute block, and then just use that path alignment, right? So this action needs to be purposeful, and you do that by choosing your path, right? Purposeful, action-oriented, tenacious, habit building. And
Yep.
remember that. And then last but not least, for this week, I want you to pick one marginal gain. Use your SVPs to choose one fundamental of the 13 that we talked about. Kylene gave you 13 great examples that you want to strengthen, and just start small. As I said, this is something that can build and it will stack over time. But if you're new to this, don't try to do all the things. Just pick one of the fundamentals and just start small. All right. So one more time, block 30 minutes, make it non-negotiable. Make sure that what you're accomplishing is following that path formula of purposeful, action-oriented, tenacious, and habit building. And then start small. One marginal gain that you're going to add into your routine during that committed time. All right. So that is the practical steps for this week, Kylene.
Yep. Yeah. Just remember, you don't need to hustle harder or stretch yourself so thin. You just need 30 minutes of intentional or aligned action that builds the life that you want to create and the business you actually want to be building. And it starts by honoring who you are. So, not what other people say you should be. Let your habits reflect your values and your strengths.
Yeah, absolutely. Just because they said it on the internet doesn't mean it's always true. Okay. I know we're on the internet, but you need to honor who you are. That's a really good point, Kylene. So, and honestly, this is how transformation begins. It's one small step, then another. We are cheering you on every day of the week. In fact, we're going to be so bold as to say every day of the week that ends in Y, we are cheering you on. Okay.
Yep. 100%.
That's my new favorite dad joke, by the way. So at least for today.
I love it. I'm sure there'll be more here. But let us know in the comments if you know what your 30-minute commitment is going to look like that you'll be starting today. And come hang out with me on Thursday mornings if you want to try gentle yoga. It's basically like stretching your body and calming your mind. So putting you in that right headspace to start your day. Your body and your business will thank you for it.
Absolutely. So go to riseshinesmile.com and you just fill out the waiver, and that will send you over the Zoom link so you can join Kylene on Thursday morning. Or if you are local here to the St. Louis area, Saturday mornings at New Life Family Chiropractic. But you can get all the information there at riseshinesmile.com. And then, Kylene, I think that if you are ready to build this into routine, we actually would love to support you in that. Again, if you heard both of our reasons, you will find that our support of you guys in building these habits is a big part of that. So if you're not already in the Entrepreneur Success Hub, you can join us over, and I got to find the link here real quick. Thought I had these all together, but the Facebook group is here at osg.link/group. And that way you can share your journey, maybe find some accountability there and connect with other business owners that are kind of in this same ocean. The saying of, we're all in the same boat. I'm not sure is always true, right? We're always in different cycles, but we certainly are all in the same ocean as business owners. So wherever we're at in the wave system, so we can work together and communicate with each other.
Yeah. And if you need help, with that first small habit of choosing what that means or what that looks like for you, or just really narrowing down the most aligned fundamental, make sure you've taken advantage of the free business alignment assessment. So do you have that link ready? Yep. With Aaron, and that's osg.lang/SVP. And if you've reached out, consultaaron.com, and you can get some feedback and perspectives on aligned marginal habits.
Absolutely. So I'd love for you guys to take that business assessment. It's totally free. So not anything that, and there's no expectations. It really is a fulfillment of my reason. Certainly there are other ways that we can support you through our success group, and I will happily share those with you if you want. But at the end of the day, I want you to better understand your SVPs, your strengths, values, and passions. And I do have a superpower of kind of looking at the big picture. In fact, I had somebody yesterday from the pricing workshop tell me that they love how I make them think differently, right? And just kind of help them, encourage them to think differently. So that's what that's all about. But if the SVP thing is not for you, or maybe you've already done it or whatnot, you're always welcome to also reach out to me at consultaaron.com and go from there. So, Kylene, let's wrap up this fundamental formula. We've done it. We spent the last 9 weeks going through this, and really great stuff. And honestly, if you just went back, and so maybe go back a little bit before the 9 weeks, maybe 10, 11, 12, over these last 12 weeks, here's the fun part, Kylene. And I didn't intentionally do it this way, but in a way I kind of did. So we spent, 12, 9, how many is that? 3? Yeah, 3.
Oh my God. Okay.
We spent 3 weeks talking about our reason in SVPs. And then we spent 9 weeks talking about the fundamental formula, how all those things align together.
Yeah.
And then the magic number 13 is next week, where we will summarize all of this and bring it all together in one big thing where you can go, oh my gosh, this is the format to build the foundation that I need for my business. Oh my gosh, right? And so we're actually going to introduce our business builder program next week, and just also talking and planning about what's ahead. So we need you guys' feedback. What do you want to hear on Small Business Saturdays going forward? We've been really excited and proud to bring this entire program to you here. But we're open to talk about whatever you guys would like. We have plenty of ideas, but if they're not important to you, then it doesn't really matter, from our side. So we can bring the ideas, but if you guys have specific topics you'd like us to cover here on Small Business Saturdays, we are all about that. But I think that'll do it for us, Kylene. I guess we'll see you guys next week for the big wrap-up show and another edition of Small Business Saturdays.
Yeah. Have a great week, everyone.
Dark days, overwhelmed, trapped in a maze. Small business owner, stress had me in a daze. Every problem piled up, couldn't catch a break. Thought I couldn't make it, my dreams were at stake. But then I found a group that changed my whole perspective. Our success group of a community so effective. We all chasing that dream, sharing struggles and fears. They understood my journey, wiped away my tears. Together we broke through, we